Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Animal Notebook Explainer. Today we are looking at a truly incredible animal with our explainer, sugar gliders, superstars of the sky. Now, you've probably seen pictures of them soaring through the air or peeking out of a cozy pouch, right? But I promise you, there is so much more to these little creatures than just a cute face.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. I mean, look at this little guy caught right in midair. It's totally undeniable. They have a massive cute factor going on, especially with those huge, forward-facing eyes and that tiny pink nose. But behind this adorable exterior is actually a highly specialized, scientifically fascinating biological machine. So in this explainer, we're going way beyond the viral photos for a scientifically accurate deep dive into how they actually live, how they fly, or, well, actually scratch that, how they glide, and what it literally takes to care for one. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll officially meet the sugar glider. Then, we'll look at how they're built for the sky. Third, we'll cover their diet and wild behavior. Fourth, the reality of keeping them as pets. And finally, we'll wrap up with 4 rapid-fire frequently asked questions. All right, part 1, meet the sugar glider. What exactly are they?
Now, a super common myth you'll hear is that sugar gliders are just a type of flying squirrel, but that is completely false. Sugar gliders, or to use their scientific name, Patagium breviceps, are actually small tree-dwelling marsupials native to Australia, New Guinea, and some nearby islands. They belong to the order Diprotodontia. What does that mean for us? It means they're actually closely related to possums, kangaroos, and wallabies. No way, right? Flying squirrels, on the other hand, are placental mammals and rodents. The fact that these two look so incredibly similar is a textbook example of convergent evolution. It's basically where two completely unrelated animals develop the exact same physical traits just because they adapted to similar environments.
Moving on to section 2, built for the sky, the anatomy of an acrobat. Now, what's really interesting here is their built-in parachute called the patagium. This is a thin, furry membrane of skin that stretches all the way from their 5th finger down to their first toe. When they launch from a branch and spread their limbs out, this membrane basically turns into a controllable parachute. They can glide absolutely incredible distances. We're talking over 150 feet in a single bound. To put that into perspective, that's half a football field. And they don't just fall with style either. They actively steer. They use their limbs and their long, fully furred, semi-prehensile tail, almost like a rudder on a boat, to make sharp mid-air turns. Add in their partially fused, opposable toes on their hind feet for grasping, plus those large eyes for stellar night vision, and you've got yourself a perfectly engineered nocturnal acrobat. Okay, section 3, diet and wild behavior. Let's talk about life in the treetops. Out in the wild, sugar gliders are highly opportunistic omnivores. Their diet is incredibly varied. Nectar, pollen, insects, and occasionally even small birds or lizards. But they are especially famous for a wild behavior called sapping. They literally use their sharp lower incisors to gouge the bark of eucalyptus and acacia trees just to get the delicious tree sap and gum flowing. Now, to process all these complex plant carbohydrates, they have a highly specialized hindgut digestive system with a well-developed cecum that uses bacterial fermentation. It's a really complex diet for a highly complex social animal, because they don't live alone. They thrive in territorial colonies of up to 7 to 12 adults, constantly interacting, grooming, and scent marking each other to reinforce their bonds. But you might be wondering, what happens when food gets scarce or the weather turns freezing? Well, they use a remarkable survival mechanism called torpor. Now, it's super important to understand that torpor is not just an ordinary deep sleep. It is a temporary, drastic physiological state where the glider actively dials down its metabolic activity and body temperature. This brilliant energy-saving response allows them to literally wait out the bad conditions without starving. And when they aren't out gliding or foraging in the dark, this is exactly where you'll find them. They are strictly nocturnal. During the day, they curl up and huddle together in nests, which are called drays, built inside tree hollows lined with leaves. Then, as the sun sets, the whole colony wakes up. They use a really complex language of vocalizations and scent marking, using glands on their heads and chests, to communicate with each other throughout the night forest. Which brings us to section 4, the reality as pets. Cute, but definitely complicated.
I want you to just look at this number for a second, 12 to 15 years. This is the lifespan of a healthy, well-cared-for captive sugar glider. We are not talking about a short-term thing like a hamster here. Bringing a sugar glider into your home is a massive, decade-plus commitment to a highly specialized exotic animal.
And the data here brilliantly illustrates why that commitment is so intense. In the wild, they only live about 4 to 5 years, mostly due to predators like owls and snakes and just the harsh natural elements. But to actually reach that 15-year mark in captivity, owners have to flawlessly replicate their wild needs. That means providing massive, tall, vertical enclosures so they can actually jump and glide. It means formulating complex, balanced diets to prevent fatal metabolic bone diseases. And most crucially, because they live in colonies, they absolutely cannot be kept solitary. They literally must have companions. It requires strict husbandry and regular access to a specialized exotic animal veterinarian.
All right, let's wrap up this explainer with Section 5, 4 frequently asked questions.
Question number 1. Do sugar gliders actually fly? I mean, you see them up in the air, but what's really happening?
The short answer, no. They definitely do not have powered flight like a bird or a bat. Instead, they perform controlled gliding. By stretching out that patagium membrane we talked about earlier, they catch the air and carefully descend from a higher point in the canopy down to a lower target.
Question number 2. What does a sugar glider sound like? Just imagine the sounds of a dark, nocturnal Australian forest for a second.
You might naturally expect a little squeak, but their vocalizations are totally wild. They use soft chatters for socializing and this harsh hissing sound called crabbing when they're defensive or scared. But the most surprising one is for sure their alarm call. They let out this distinct, sharp yip that sounds exactly like a small barking dog. In fact, in some areas, they're literally nicknamed the barking possum.
Question number 3, and this is a critical husbandry question. Given the name sugar glider, should you feed your pet sugary human food like candy or honey?
Absolutely not. So the crucial point to take away here is that nature inconveniently did not design this species around supermarket dessert logic. The sugar in their name refers to natural tree sap and flower nectar, not processed human sweets. Feeding them a poorly balanced diet of just fruit and honey will lead to severe mineral imbalances and malnutrition. They absolutely require complex, veterinary-quality formulated diets.
Finally, our fourth question, are sugar gliders endangered in the wild?
Currently, the IUCN lists sugar gliders as a species of least concern because they have a pretty wide range and stable populations. However, they are actively facing real threats from habitat loss, logging, and land clearing. So while they remain abundant for now, the ongoing destruction of old-growth forests, which they totally rely on for food and tree hollows, poses a massive long-term challenge. They aren't just cute novelties, right? They're a complex piece of wild biology intricately tied to a very specific ecosystem. So the thought I want to leave you with is this. As their natural canopy shrinks, how will these magnificent acrobats adapt to survive in a rapidly changing world? Thank you so much for joining this focused dive on Animal Notebook, and keep learning.